I am thankful to IWSA for giving me this opportunity to speak today on the session. I am also thankful to organizing committee. The topic which I'll be delivering today at this moment is basically on why ESG and how to promote sustainable production and consumption, that is as part of SDG 12. Hope I am audible to all.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So this is the screen because I am sitting at a place in Guwahati in Assam, which is just opposite of Mumbai, like extreme east. So this part is very greenery, you must be knowing, and also this part is quite border to you can say on three sides, like lower side we have Bangladesh, upper side we have China, and eastern side we have Myanmar. So now continuing with the slide. So starting with the slide, let me just scroll it because I'm doing it from remote. Hope it will work. 1 minute. Yes. So starting with the elements of environmental, social, and governance, that is called ESG, you can see that environmental dimensions, our commitment is to demonstrate through management of energy use, water, waste, pollution, and greenhouse gases. Similarly, for the social dimensions, our efforts are focused on employee statement, consumer responsibility, and social and community development. Similarly, for the governance part, 1 minute. For the governance part, we have to emphasize good corporate governance, risk management, which is based on sustainability, and supply chain management. So we have to see first the SDG through the lens of ESG. So here you can see that environmental part, if you that ESG part is for the environmental part, you can see these all SDGs are coming under environment. In social, these all are the SDG goal. There are total 17 goals. So all are basically, you can see, can be categorized in between environment, social, and governance. So now coming down. So how does the ESG can drive the sustainable business? The ESG concept demonstrates the company's commitments to good governance and transparent management that actively manage social and environmental risk, while also considering the stake of all the stakeholders. So in this case, we can say that ESG contains three key elements. That is, first one is environment, means dimensions, which includes management of energy use, water, waste, air pollution, and greenhouse. Social dimensions we already discussed. That considers the employee treatment, customer responsibility, social and community development. And in part of governance, dimensions are basically emphasizing the good corporate governance, risk management, which is based on sustainability, and supply chain. So sustainability in food consumption, because as I said, we were discussing on SDG 12. So in SDG 12, responsible production and consumption. So one of the main focus of this expertise is on the food environment, which exerts a major influence on food consumptions and eating behavior. So influence of food behavior on eating must be understood in far greater depth than it is currently in the case of food policy. The food environment comprises and encompasses the entire behavioral process. So this is small infographics which you can see that how you can have more sustainable food consumptions. So we need to have focus on health, social aspects, environments, and animal welfare. So health promoting food consumptions, and similarly the food consumption social aspect is basically that guarantees minimum social standards. And in case of environment, it should be environmentally and climate friendly food consumptions that fits with the, it is one example of a country called Germany's because it was sourced from WBE illustration. So that country specific was discussed, but it is applicable for all countries in the world. And in regards to the animal welfare, food consumption that supports greater animal welfare and so that it can meet the changing ethical demands of the society. Similarly, if we go ahead, we can see what are the SDG 12 target for business. United Nations has identified 11 targets and 13 indicators to establish the progress in SDG 12, that is responsible production and consumption. The most applicable targets and indicators to business are to implement a 10-year responsible consumptions and production framework, sustainable management and efficient use of natural resources, then responsible management of chemicals and waste, and sustainably reduce waste generation, and encourage the companies to adopt sustainable practices and sustainability reporting, and also to promote sustainable procurement for practices, and to promote universal understanding of the sustainable life cycles. So these are the targets and goals which are set by United Nations regarding the SDG 12, which a companies and the industries and the society needs to cooperate so that we can have better understanding on the ESG part related to SDG 12. Now going forward, what are the 12 SDG target for business? Because we know the responsible production requires manufacturing goods and services in an ethical and sustainable way that minimizes waste and pollution and supports long-term sustainability of surrounding communities in their natural environment. Oftentimes, the initial investment towards more sustainable processes will result in a greater return in the investments in long run. Additionally, more customers are preferring additionally the initial investment is there. Additionally, more consumers will be preferring organizations who have demonstrated environmental and ethical practices investment part, because that also is a is basically the benchmark for any investors to whether to invest or not. So companies who are complying to ESG compliances have better chances for getting investments. Going forward, for the responsible consumption part, it extends beyond buying better, greener products and being more aware of their end-of-life destination. It also includes considering the environmental, social, health and economic impacts of a product and services. So business must establish the criteria for responsible consumption while developing the product and services. So in other words, it can be said that products and services must not only be built from the eco-friendly materials and sustainable production processes, but also it should get designed based on the extended environment and social impacts as they have been consumed. So going forward, these are the business action items. So in case of responsible production, you have to identify, business have to identify hotspots in value chains. They have to minimize the carbon emissions at all stages. They have to utilize renewables, eliminate waste in all stages, and reduce any harmful pollutants, ensure all suppliers are sustainable, and to reduce use of packaging materials. In regards to consumption, these are the things we need to understand, that buy low environmental impact products, buy non-toxic products, buy products that give back back locally, and buy ethical and morally driven products. So going forward, we can see that this is one which is called Sustainable Food Production System. So United Nations Environment Asia Pacific has engaged in the global Think, Eat, Safe campaign to reduce the food waste and waste along the entire chain of food production. So it is basically acting like waste. Then measuring the food waste, national and regional policies. And then we can say that supply wide action to reduce waste, and also have a campaign to raise the awareness against the citizens. So these 4 dimensions of food waste reductions, according to the Think, Eat, Safe food waste prevention guidance has been given by the United Nations, so that it is specifically for the Asia Pacific, so that we can have responsible production and consumption. Now coming to the sustainable food production system. In this case, it works through multiple stakeholder partnerships, which accelerates and scale up changes in patterns of consumptions and productions. So in addition to government and not-for-government organizations, private sector participants are increasing significance. So you can see that who are the stakeholders, the governments, like who are the regulatory framework bodies, institutional setup, tariff, designing subsidies and guarantees. And you can see the businesses, like financial shares, technical innovations, managerial role, local knowledge, backwards and forward linkages, and the citizens who are willing to pay awareness and will environmental friendly lifestyle. So all 3 stakeholders give rise to the sustainable food productions in the system. So going forward, methodology for producing sustainable products from sustainable processes. So for this, we need to have a design for sustainable principles like environmental impact, functionality, manufacturability, recyclability, then resource utilization, economy, social impact. And this is also need to have the sustainable manufacturing principles, energy efficiency, minimum power, operational safety, personal health, cost, environmental impact, waste management. So give rise to, this has an impact on the product and process design. So when we go below, we can see that this is finally coming to the optimal use of how we can have the optimal use of energy, materials, labor, other resources. And also when these things comes into sustainable manufacturing process, so what are the outputs? So we should have minimum waste, we should have minimum emissions. Then only we can say, after getting all these factors in place, we can have that we are producing sustainable products as per the guidelines of UN SDG 12. Going below, we can see the circular economy, like one of our esteemed speakers already spoken on this regarding circular economy. So circular economy for food economy, how we can do this and how the globe is doing this. The first one is sub-industry. We can take, if suppose if we discuss on agricultural chemicals, here the material ESG issues basically are carbon emissions, effluents and waste, environment and social impact of products. The solution here is the pesticide based on microorganisms or natural products such as plant, bacteria, and certain materials should be used. So to mitigate this ESG issues. So in this case, the number one we are discussing is biological pesticides. Going below, we can see that biological pesticide market is expected to reach 7.1 billion USD in 2025, which was 2.8 billion US dollar in 2018. Second slide, if you see, this is for the agricultural chemicals. Here material ESG issues are carbon emission, effluents, waste, environment and social impact. Solution here is technology can enable more precise approaches where farming activities such as irrigation and fertilizer applications can be made. So here we can see, when we go below, the precision farming. So precision farming is the concept which is being raised to mitigate this type of problems, ESG issues. The precision agriculture is on course of growing from presently US 3.9 billion USD. 1 minute. In 2018 to go by 9 billion USD by 2025. So you can see how the market is improving and is rising. Demand is so high to have this SDG is in place. Third is specialty chemicals. Here also the material issues are carbon emission, effluents, waste, environment, and social impact. So solution here is food preservation solution that can use natural or controlled antimicrobials to extend the shelf of the life of food. So you can see the natural food preservatives, which is valued at presently USD 796 million as in 2018. It is expected to reach 1.06 billion US dollar by 2028. Going below, we can see for one more activity which is happening like agriculture. Here they again same the material ESG issues are similar. Only thing adding is land use and biodiversity and supply chains. So solution basically certified organic feed products. So organic feed is the case where agriculture intensifications continues as demands for food production is on course to grow from 25% and 70% over the next 30 years. The fifth one is for the agriculture again, where carbon, environmental, social impact, land use, biodiversity. Solution is products which are offering has to be certified to ensure that best industry standards are applied. So certified sustainable products. You can see here the momentum is already developing, is building for organic food producers as the global organic food market is surpassing USD 110 billion US dollar in 2018, up from 115 billion USD, which was in 2000. If you go to the sixth one you can see is again packaged foods. So here the ESG issues are land use, biodiversity, emissions, effluents, using fish byproducts and alternative to wild fish stock to convert organic matter in energy and bio fertilizers. So the price of fish oil and fish meal stock is already set to increase from 70 to 92% by 2030 from 2010, partly due to supply constraints at present. You have been knowing due to some pandemic issues and disruptions, but it is growing. Coming to the seventh one, in the seventh one, we can see that it is packaged foods again. So here the solution is to co-cultivation of fed species like salmon with extractive species like oysters and all, which are mutually complementary. So integrated multi-trophic aquaculture is valued at 230 billion US dollar and is enjoying an average annual growth of around 6% since 2000. And the eighth one is on the food retail, where the solution is to increase the use of recycled material for packaging, so using recycled plastics. And for this, the Economic Union has already banned single-use plastic, for which alternative exists. The UK is levying a tax on plastic packaging that use less than 30% recycled materials. So this is also one part of ESG for sustainable, for responsible production and consumption. Then coming to ninth one, that's the restaurants. The solution is to reduce the amount of food waste, both in production process as well as end of consumers. So reducing food waste is in between 30 to 40% of food waste happens before it reaches market, driven primarily by improper use of commodity inputs and lack of storage. So we need to look into this so that this can be mitigated. And the last one is 10th one. 10th one is on the packaged foods again. So the how we can make solution is to make use of waste as an input material so that we can create valuable products as new outputs. So here we can say it's about recovering. It's not scrolling one. So recovering waste. So without concerted actions, 2.1 billion tons of food will be wasted annually in 2030, which will be around, cost will be around 1.5 trillion US dollars. So the last slide is on fast facts. The fast fact is that worldwide consumption and production relies on finite, rapidly increasing resources. Second fact is that businesses are the largest resource of consumers. Third one is 9.6 billion global population in 2050 will receive 3 Earths, will be requiring 3 Earths to meet their resource demand. So we should be, it is very alarming. And the last global priorities, if I say, then First one is severe relationship between economic growth and degradations. We have to cultivate long-lasting durable goods. We have to consider management of resources, products from cradle to grave, and to create, that is cradle to grave basically regarding that we already discussed the circular economy, create opportunities for countries to leapfrog stages of development. So this is the last slide. So thank you once again for inviting me to this August audience. I am stop sharing the screen now. So this screen I cannot stop share. It will be stop shared by the organizer. So thank you once again for inviting me to this August session, and I'm delighted to participate and discussing few of the important points related to SDG 12, which is also part of ESG, environment, social, and governance for industries and societies altogether. Thank you very much. Thank you once again.